Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of Ask an Undergrad, which is our new podcast initiative with the Cybermentor program. And these first few episodes are going to be brought to you in collaboration with the Schulich School of Engineering at the University of Calgary. So what is this Ask an Undergrad podcast series? Well, it's going to be an opportunity for you to connect with undergraduate students from the University of Calgary and various STEM faculties and ask your questions, whatever you've been dying to know about being a university student, working in various fields. Maybe you have some questions about extracurricular activities or what it's like to be a woman working in a STEM industry. And this is your one-stop shop to hear all of those fabulous stories from various university students at the University of Calgary. So today we have 6 fabulous women, all from the Schulich School of Engineering, that we are going to be introducing to you. And these women will also be joining us for upcoming episodes that we will be streaming live, and you'll have an opportunity to ask your questions. So we'd just like to start by introducing the hosts for this episode, which is myself, Hannah, and Allie. But before we do that, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that this podcast is being brought to you from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I'd like to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda Nations, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. So just to start things off by introducing myself, Tanshe Holliston Dishnikashan. So hi, my name is Holliston. I go by Holly for short. I am Métis on my dad's side of the family, and we are Soto and Cree and Scottish. And my mom's side of the family is from the Cardston, Alberta area, but we have lived in Calgary for quite a while now. And I am new to working with the cyber program, Cybermentor program, but I am not new to the Cybermentor program itself because I was actually a participant from 2002 to 2010. And then since 2010 to now, I've been a mentor on and off with the program. And I just started working here recently to help Hannah with some of the amazing initiatives that she's starting off, and also to help develop some new programming focused on Indigenous youth. I'm a graduate from the University of Calgary myself. I graduated in 2015 with a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. I had a 5-year journey at the U of C and tried out numerous faculties along the way, including the Schulich School of Engineering, but decided engineering wasn't for me because we already had 3 engineers in the family. We didn't need another one. So I went the psychology route, and I love learning about humans and how our minds work. And I find that it's very applicable science in my day-to-day life and in my day-to-day interactions. I have a dog named Beatrice, who is a corgi, and in my free time, I love to crochet little critters with lots of personality and faces on them. So I will turn it over to Hannah, and she can introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah, and I am the Cybermentor coordinator. I am coming from Treaty 6 territory in Sherwood Park, Alberta, as I am quarantining here with my parents. I am originally from north of Toronto, but grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, and had the pleasure of attending Laurier Brantford University, as well as graduating from the University of Alberta with a degree in Women's and Gender Studies and a minor in drama, which surprises no one. And I graduated from the University of Calgary in 2019 with a Master's of Social Work, and I am new to the STEM world, but am excitedly learning along the way. When I am not working on Cybermentor stuff, I am either baking sourdough bread, rehearsing for musicals, or rereading Harry Potter for the 1800th time. I will pass it over to Allie to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Allie, and I am the diversity specialist at the Schulich School of Engineering. I support projects related to diversity, equity, and inclusion for future students, current students, as well as faculty and staff. Prior to this role, I studied at the University of Victoria. I got a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. And during this time, I got really interested in women's studies and studying social inequality. So I really love what I get to do every day. When I was growing up, I was always interested in science, but when I got into high school, I actually opted out of taking chemistry and physics because I was a bit of a perfectionist, and had like a bit of a fear of failure. So I can really relate to young girls who are kind of going through that. And I would really just like love to encourage all students to take all their upper level math and science courses. So you can leave your options open for university or post-secondary. In my spare time, I love traveling, checking out new restaurants in Calgary, as well as hiking and skiing in the mountains.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allie. And I can also relate. As I mentioned, I did an arts degree and then a social work degree. And so I also was a perfectionist and too scared to venture off into grade 12 sciences. And I only did grade 11 chemistry, and I did grade 12 math, but I didn't go any farther with any of the sciences. And so I'm really excited to hear about some journeys about some brave women who braved the sciences and have been brave to go into and pursue their undergraduate degrees in STEM. Particularly today, we're talking to 6 incredible engineering undergraduate students and graduates. And so we're going to get them to introduce themselves. So can we start with Annemarie? Annemarie, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? What are you studying? What are some of your interests? What brought you to Schulich? Things like that.
Awesome. Hi guys, I'm Annemarie Summers. I am an undergraduate student at the Schulich School of Engineering. I just finished up my first year, so I'm kind of the newbie, the rookie of these amazing female engineers. So I started off born and raised in Calgary, Alberta here. In high school, I was kind of spread out all over the place. I actually, I took my biology, chemistry, physics. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I dispersed that way. What brought me to Schulich, and something that I can speak to that I was fortunate enough to be a part of this past summer, that before I entered my first year, I was a part of the Bioengineering Summer Institute program that launched. It was the first of its kind in Canada, so I was really excited to be a part of that. I really enjoyed kind of bio and math and physics, especially applicable to athletics, and how with bioengineering, there's a lot of room for the mechanical constructions of helmets and kind of physical equipment that way. I grew up playing a lot of sports, so one of them being lacrosse at the national level. So I experienced what it was like to kind of be a minority in, like, there's not a lot of girls playing lacrosse. So I was at a young age, I was kind of in an area where there wasn't a lot of female participants. As for engineering, I kind of flew into that headspace, that degree path, as I realized it gave me such a big branch. I'm hoping in the next year to pursue mechanical engineering, potentially with a biomedical engineering minor that is new this year. Basically, what the Bioengineering Summer Institute program allowed me to do, give and take in physics and bio, I did that program to kind of expand my horizon and learn more about what engineering could do for me, and the multiple pathways. I chose mechanical in the next little bit here. Hopefully, because I saw the vast capacity that you could take with it. Since my first year started, I got into the leadership program. I've been working closely with the diversity and with the program with diversity in engineering. I was fortunate enough to receive an entrance scholarship to promote diversity, so I've done my best throughout my first year to really dive into mentorship and leadership programs, hoping in the next few years to kind of expand that, so I can pass it off to the next. Oh, and something that I like to do in my free time is I like hiking, traveling, and my new puppy that hopefully he might come in here later, but yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Annemarie. That is great. We are going to hand it over to Caroline, who also has a mechanical engineering background. So maybe you can, Caroline, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit more. Annemarie spoke about bioengineering, but maybe you can chat a little bit more about mechanical engineering and what exactly it is.
Sure. I just finished my second year of engineering, which would also be my first year of mechanical engineering, to be specific. And it was very clear to me what drew me to mechanical engineering. It was primarily the flexibility that it provides, kind of like what Annemarie touched upon. And since many things move and many industries have moving parts, and it's a very applicable major to have. And for me, what really drew me to it was probably the fact that it was first like joints, how joints worked. It was something that I was always very interested in, and I think it started with a sports injury. But I was also a technical theater kid in high school, so whenever I was setting up the lights and doing all that stuff, I was always very, very interested and fascinated by all the joints and all those moving parts that we had. And yeah, I don't know, it all just kind of made sense to me. And then when I was in high school, I was one of those typical keeners. I was an IB kid, did the whole thing, chemistry and physics IB. There were only 2 girls left by grade 12 when we got to physics IB. And it was pretty clear that that trend kind of carries on later on in life, and they called us the physics chicks. We ended up doing engineering together. We took the same block, had the same schedules. It's one of my best friends, and yeah, I joined Cybermentor as a participant in grade 10 as well when I attended Women in Engineering Day. And there I met one of my mentors, Dr. Sun, who made sure I went into mechanical engineering and was such an inspiration to me and was so much help. And I attended again the next year. I just couldn't have enough. I knew Schulich was where I was supposed to be, and I met also some really inspiring undergrads and people like Monique Sullivan, who also were such a great help to me in my journey here to Schulich. And yeah, I don't know. I think this is, in fact, the perfect place for me. There's so much support, and really the diversity team is super cool, and all the initiatives that they do are super inspiring. And I try to get involved with that right off the bat in my first year. So yeah, I'm involved with a bunch of different extracurriculars. One of them is Project 90, which is a good club for you to take your engineering skills and all of your time and kind of employ that in a way that will benefit underprivileged communities, both locally and globally. So I manage one of the projects with my co-manager, and we adapt and design electric ride-on toy cars for toddlers with disabilities. And also Innova is a biomimicry engineering design club, so I also got involved with that in my first year. And we do a lot of global design challenges, and we take a challenge every year and try to find innovations that are inspired by nature to solve those problems. And we also do a lot of outreach and diversity initiatives as well. And yeah, and I also started my own club in first year, Senior Wellness Association, because you got to support our senior citizens. And I guess a fun fact would be I learned how to file taxes when I was a kid and only learned how to ride a bike when I was 18.
Amazing. It's a delightful reversal. Caroline, so you are a mechanical engineering major. Do you have a declared minor, or are you pursuing a specific minor?
I am hoping to apply to the mechatronics minor by the end of my third year.
Awesome. Would you mind giving a very brief description of what mechatronics is?
Sure, it's like the crossover between electrical engineering and mechanical engineering, and also a little bit of software stuff. So it's all the robotics, and you take electricity and circuits and create moving parts and moving devices, like different robots that you see serving different services around the world.
That is so cool. That is my new word of the day, because I have literally never heard that word before. Thank you for sharing, Caroline. Can we pop over and get Jasmine to introduce herself?
Hey, my name's Jasmine, and I was born in Edmonton, grew up in Calgary, and my family is Polish and Ukrainian and German and Cree from Sawridge Cree First Nation. I was homeschooled my whole life, and so I didn't do any like AP or IB courses. So I kind of, when I came to engineering, everyone was like, I learned this in grade 12, and I was like, what are you talking about? What is an imaginary number? But it's been a really fun journey. I started off in first year as a first year rep on ESS, which is the Engineering Student Society. Second year, I was elected as vice president academic, and then in third year, I was our diversity commissioner. Some other projects I have on the side include starting at engineering STEM Indigenous Student Society, as well as co-chairing a conference on diversity in engineering this year. So I'm in mechanical engineering. I just finished my 3rd year. I'm scheduled to start internship this summer at Imperial Oil. Mechanical engineering is very broad. My favorite part of it, the reason I picked it is because I like to visualize moving parts. So my favorite classes have been like dynamics and like machine kinematics and kinetics, where like you learn how do rigid bodies move and what velocities and accelerations do they move with, and how does that affect the forces, and how do you design for those. So I find that's quite cool. But there's also other areas like you can consider like deformable solids and different types of materials, how fluids move, how heat is transferred, thermodynamics. So there's a lot of stuff. Last summer I worked at Suncor at Baseline in Fort McMurray, and so I got to kind of explore the site there, and I was basically working in asset integrity, making sure that we were monitoring the corrosion rates of piping to make sure there weren't any unexpected failures. And my internship this summer will be with implementation of autonomous haul trucks in the oil sands. So it's a bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jasmine, do you have a minor that you're working towards, or?
I don't, just vanilla Mac.
Awesome. Awesome. That is great. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I'm so interested in learning more about what it's like to go from a homeschooling experience to a big university like University of Calgary. We'll definitely have to chat more about that, and that feeling of maybe not knowing what other people might know, and how you eventually made it to be VP academic and things like that. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Jasmine. Manpreet, would you we got mechanical engineering as I guess the place to be. Manpreet, would you mind sharing with us?
For sure. Yeah. So I just recently wrote my last exam of my mechanical engineering degree. I know it's exciting. I sometimes don't know what to do with my time now that that degree's done, but I also had the opportunity to take on the biomedical engineering specialization as my minor, which has definitely kind of added a layer to the mechanical engineering that I've particularly enjoyed. So I think all the girls described mechanical engineering really well. I think I went into it because I sought out an explanation of, physical phenomena and the motion of mass, whether that's, your fluid dynamics, solid structures, thermodynamics, or heat transfer. I also found it really fascinating to use modeling softwares to actually bring ideas that I had in my brain to life and actually employ a variety of manufacturing techniques, whether, that's 3D printing something or some more advanced prototyping to really bring those ideas to life to be able to help people. And like I mentioned, that biomedical some of the classes I took allowed me to look at how tissues can be designed for tissue regeneration in the body, or how do we design devices and instruments that can be used as prosthetics or can be used as actual surgical tools. So that really kind of opens up the field, and I think it's a really broad and exciting and constantly moving field. So I think everyone touched on it really well. I was born and raised in Vancouver, so I lived in residence when I came. So if anyone has questions relating to moving to a new city for school, the social transition that it takes, please don't hesitate to ask. I think going into engineering, that wasn't something that I necessarily considered, but it's a large part of the university transition. I was fortunate to receive the Schulich Leader Scholarship, which actually brought me to Calgary. So I've moved for that reason. And since then, I've been able to be a member of the Scholars Academy at the university, and also have held a series of student leadership positions. Like Jasmine, I was on the Engineering Student Society for a few years, as well as the Mechanical Engineering Student Society and the Students' Union as well. And I was fortunate as well to be able to spend 16 months at Garmin Canada on their innovation team to create fitness wearables, which I found fascinating because I got to embed some of the mechanical design principles in designing the wearables, but also the biomedical applications of how do we translate these designs to actually be relevant and be inclusive for a variety of humans, which was fascinating to me. I think at the basis, I've always just been really committed to women's issues and the intersection of
feminism with STEM learning. I spent 13 years at an all-girls high school before transitioning to university. So I think the role of gender inequity in STEM professions has been kind of at the forefront of what I want to do and the impact that I want to leave. And I've been able to mentor individuals through the Women in Science and Engineering Club, as well as I participated on the Engineering Diversity Inclusion Action Committee, which is an amazing initiative started to actually increase the representation of underrepresented groups in the field. I also really love innovation and entrepreneurial projects. My capstone group just finished developing a handheld eating utensil that actually compensates and stabilizes tremor for individuals that have neurological movement disorders, such as Parkinson's. And yeah, I think in general, engineering to me has allowed me to ask questions, understand physical phenomena, work in teams, and exercise critical thinking to solve relevant problems in society. But at the same time, I also realize that we need more individuals like you who have diverse lived experiences, to really come into the program and help build a more inclusive and diverse fabric. I think the profession needs more females, needs more people of color, and needs Indigenous individuals at the table to actually direct where the program goes and what's included in the curriculum. So I'll be headed to the University of Oxford in the fall to study there. So I'm incredibly excited for that next chapter.
What are you going to be studying at the University of Oxford?
So I'll actually be first taking on a master's program and looking at how technology interfaces with society and how we can increase digital literacy for underrepresented groups, in particularly people with disabilities. So I've enjoyed engineering, but I also want to, I think, expand and see the impact that I can make working with people in policy and working with social scientists on some of these issues.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Manpreet, for sharing some of your excellent words of wisdom on where you think engineering needs to go, and for sharing some of your experiences. Next, we have another recent graduate. We have Sheliza.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sheliza. I just graduated from chemical engineering at UC, which was super exciting. And I think the reason why I mainly chose chemical engineering, so a lot of people think it's a lot of chemistry, but it's actually not a lot of chemistry. It's a lot of process optimization. So that's kind of what gravitated me towards chemical engineering. I found it really great to look at processes that happen every day, from creating ketchup to different kinds of things. And basically, after looking at these processes, what our role was in the industry was to create a more efficient process, whether that would be using a different catalyst or an innovative technology that actually combines two of the process unit, things like that. And so that's something that I thought was really great, because I could go in the industry and be able to look at something that we do all the time and say, hey, let's try a different method. And so I've been really fortunate. I went to TC Energy and next in CNOC for my internships. It was a really great experience because I got to work with upstream and drilling and completions at next in CNOC. And then I also got to do some pipeline work at TC Energy. So it was great to have both of those experiences. A fun fact is that I actually never knew what I wanted to be when I was growing up. I thought because I was good at math in high school that I wanted to be an accountant, and that's what everyone told me, including my guidance counselor. So me not really knowing what an engineer was, I went into mathematics, chartered professional accountancy at the University of Waterloo for my first year. And while I was there, I was filling out balance sheets 24/7 and noticed that some of the engineering students were building robots and creating different processes and using different simulations. And I was like, I think I'm in the wrong degree. So I basically decided to transfer back to UC and said, hey, I think I chose the wrong direction. I was wondering if I could go into engineering. And I went through being a transfer student. So I went through open studies and then became like a full-time undergraduate student. So I can definitely talk about that. But it was a really great learning opportunity because a lot of us don't really know what we want to do when we grow up. And sometimes we only learn those things by testing out different things. So that's kind of how I chose engineering. I was involved in a lot of different clubs that really helped me grow as an individual. When you apply to jobs in the future, one of the biggest things that distinguishes you is what you did outside of your degree as well. So I was really fortunate where I joined the Chemical Engineering Student Society, and I got to travel a lot. So I went to Quebec City, I went to Spain, I went to Toronto. Like, I got to really experience a variety of like experiences and got to meet a lot of different students, and that was really great. I also got to do a lot of humanitarian work, which I'm really passionate about. They don't talk about it a lot in the sciences, but I think it's really important to know that your degree can really help you give back to the community as well. So I got to go to Tijuana, Mexico for Homes of Hope, which is basically building a house in Tijuana for a family that has just lost their home. So that was a great experience. And then outside of school, I actually have been running a charitable organization called Children's Birthday Miracles, where we throw birthdays for children living in the homeless shelters here in Calgary, as well as cancer patients living at the Alberta Children's Hospital. And then we're also located in Africa, so I got to go there to throw some birthdays at orphanages, which was a really great experience and taught me a lot about the world and what needs to be done. So I think that's definitely going to help me in terms of potentially joining Engineers Without Borders as I go into the industry. And then when I grow up, I am actually beginning an EIT position at Husky Energy as an operations EIT, and I'm super excited because I start in June, and it feels like all hard work paid off. But I'm definitely excited to meet new engineers and potentially join some leadership opportunities. And in my spare time, I like to Bollywood dance. I've been Bollywood dancing since I was 3, and I like to travel as well. So those are the things I like to do on the side. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sheliza. And just to clarify, did you have a minor or were you just a chemical engineering student?
I'm just a chemical engineering student. I chose to keep myself busy with clubs. But yeah.
Sorry, I didn't. Just a chemical engineering student, folks.
No, don't worry.
Chemical engineering student. My gosh, you are all so busy.
There is the petroleum minor, which is very popular in chemical engineering, and most people can only get petroleum jobs if they have that minor, and I would highly recommend it because it definitely helps support you. I did take all my technical electives in the petroleum minor, so I got to learn about reservoir engineering, well logging, different kinds of essential skills for the upstream industry. So I do think it's a great program, but unfortunately, by the time I realized I wanted to do that, it was too late. So
that's great to know. I'm sure we'll follow up with this when we do a specific engineering program chat, but I didn't know that, because I know when I was doing my undergrad in arts, I didn't have an option. I had to declare a minor. So this is something that I'm learning today. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sheliza, and congratulations again on finishing. Stephanie, we'd love to hear, for last but certainly not least, another one of our graduates. We have Stephanie.
Hello, yeah, I'm Stephanie. Just graduated from the civil engineering undergraduate program, which is crazy to me. Never thought this day would come, but whoa, hallelujah, we're here. I went to high school in Calgary, but I'll talk a little bit more of my fun facts about my childhood. It was very weird. I went to high school in Calgary, and originally I was like, oh, I'm going to go to UBC. I'm going to go leave here, the sun, yeah, go to Vancouver. And then Calgary reeled me in with a scholarship, and I was like, money, gotta take what I can. So I came here, and I had a weird path to engineering. I wanted to be a pharmacist. My mom was like, they make a lot of money and you like chemistry and sciences. And I thought, yeah, that's cool. But then I started liking physics a lot more in grade 11, grade 12. And I started talking to my teachers and oh, engineering is a good choice too. And my dad's an engineer, so I asked him a couple of questions. He's mechanical, so he's right with all the other people in mechanical. But yeah, I decided, yeah, I'm gonna try out this engineering. And I was gung-ho. I'm going to do chemical. I'm going to go into chemical. This is what I want to do. And then in my first year, I was introduced to some of the civil related topics in the general year, and I was like, this is really cool. Like, I like this. And it piqued the architecture side of me. I also wanted to go into architecture. I was a really like all over the place person in high school. I was doing AP physics and AP art. Like, I was just all the interests all at the time. So I was like, this one seems a little bit like different. This one seems really cool. So I went into civil engineering, and civil engineering is a lot more broad than people think it is. The way my profs describe it is anything from the ground up and the environment around it. So soil, water within the soil, structures, so thinking about buildings, bridges, anything you build, anything that doesn't move. Mechanical is things that move. I don't like things that move. I like things to stay in one place, and that's what civil is. It's really cool, and I really like the environmental aspect of it. So like wastewater management, like thinking where your sewage goes. I think that's really interesting, and that's actually what my capstone project was. We did a capstone on one of the buildings at U of C. Everyone took a different part of the remodeling of that building, and my group took on the wastewater and water management, which is really cool. I got to kind of design a green wall too, that incorporated some of the effluent water to make this green wall grow. And also got to design a net zero bathroom that incorporated no water, which was really cool. Let's see. I did a lot in my undergrad. I will mention this. I'm one to talk about for failures and going like building up from a failure. So I always learned growing up that once you fail, you gotta like do something else to like take your mind off of it, like try different things. So I ended up like my GPA wasn't terrible, but I ended up not having the high enough GPA to continue on with my scholarship. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let this keep me down. What can I do? So I joined a whole bunch of different stuff. So I was always really interested in music. I'm a very musical person. I was in band in high school and in junior high and everything. So I was in a music club. It's called Schulich Soundstage. And I went up in the ranks. I was a junior exec, then I was VP marketing, then I was president of it. And I really loved it. It was incorporating the engineering side of things with music, which was like, woo, up my alley. And I am in, and was in, a sorority, which I love. I really wanted sisterhood. I have 2 older brothers, no sisters, so I wanted more female, and I was in engineering, like, where are the girls? So I wanted more female energy. So I was in the Alpha Omicron Pi sorority. I'm still in it. It was a great experience. Now I'm an alumni member, which is awesome. And I joined cheerleading. So another very much girl-centric thing. So I cheerleader for 4 years. First time ever doing cheerleading. I did lots of sports in high school, but like cheerleading was right out of my element. I loved it. It was a great team sport. I would recommend try out for it if you're interested. And I did a whole lot of stuff. I was in the Women of Science and Engineering. I was in EWB for a little bit. I was a project manager in Project 90. I just threw myself in all sorts of directions trying to see what I liked. And in the end, I also was in the ESS as a VP corporate relations too. So that was a fun time. I did a little bit of traveling. I also did the Homes of Hope in Mexico, which was really cool. I went on a conference actually with Manpreet. We went to Orlando for a cool Women in Engineering conference. That was sick. Yeah, I did a lot of that. I'm also a really big mental health proponent. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety while in university. I've always had to handle it. So I'm also someone to talk to about the mental health initiatives on campus or where to go. It's something that, not gonna lie, in engineering, handling that, it can be really hard. So finding those people to talk to about it, it's really awesome. And like using the accessibility center and everything really helped me out. So don't be afraid to ask for help. I'm also really into humanitarian. Apart from the Mexico trip that I took, I volunteered for the Calgary Bridge Foundation for a little bit. So that's for immigrant youth and trying to be like a mentor and helping them out. I'm really passionate about integrating immigrants and integrating people that aren't really from Calgary into the community. So the fun fact is that I grew up all around the world. Before I lived in Calgary, I lived in Singapore, and before that was Nigeria, Scotland, Brunei. So I had a really international upbringing. So I love being in university because, not gonna lie, my high school was pretty one-dimensional in terms of culture. So being around people of lots of different cultures really just inspires me. I've always like thrived on that, and I love that. It made me a better person, to be honest, to be able to interact and understand where people come from. And something that University of Calgary has is that interaction of cultures. And I used to go to all my friends' different societies, and like the Indian Student Society or the Nigerian Student Society, like for me, and like just all sorts of different places. And I would recommend, even if you're not from that culture, just going there to learn something new. And that's about it. Sorry about the rambling, but yeah.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And so you pursued a civil engineering degree, no minor?
Yes.
Okay,
No
cool.
minor.
And do you know what you're doing? Like, what are your plans for the fall?
Oof. So, in the midst of a job search, COVID really did a turn on things, but keeping my hopes up. Right now, I'm kind of taking it easy. I'm actually a little interested in pursuing some like graphic design and like coding initiatives. And I thought I'd say like something people don't know about me is I have like obviously I want to do like use my engineering degree, go into I actually want to go into like technical sales, so like using your engineering degree and like do marketing and sales and all of that. And I've done a lot of research on that, and I'm really interested in that. A lot of my extracurriculars were marketing and corporate relations related. But something that a lot of people don't know about me is that I actually have a dream that I don't know, not near future, but I really want to build a homeless shelter. I really, really want to pioneer a homeless shelter that does homeless to getting a job. So like job placements, helping out with everything in between. And I really want to pioneer that. So that's something that I hope to accomplish in my future.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Stephanie. Thank you all for sharing. So those are our wonderful, these are all of our wonderful experts in our Ask an Undergrad series. And so what you can expect from our podcast is podcast episodes like this, but about specific topics where these experts will share their expertise about different aspects of what it's like to be, from what it's like to just be an engineering student or just a student at university, all the way up to the technical, to what courses maybe should you take, to really what is the experience of being a woman in a STEM industry, what are some of those challenges that you might face, and what are some of the skills that they've developed that they can maybe pass along some hints to you. Before we wrap up, we have one more question for everyone, and we'll start with Jasmine, because we'll mix it up a little bit. We'll start with Jasmine. And so the question is, what is one piece of advice you'd give your high school graduate self? So if you were finishing grade 12 right now, if you could go back and give yourself one quick piece of advice, like 30 seconds, what would it be? Jasmine, are you ready?
I'm very ready. The one thing I would tell myself as I was entering engineering was to go to sleep. I would stay up late trying to do assignments because that's what I did in high school, and it did not work at all for me in university. I was so tired I couldn't pay attention in class. When I was doing the assignments, I was like, this is written in Greek, what am I doing? And that's something I really tried to improve upon in second and third year, and I found it worked so much better for me. So not staying up late and pulling weird hours, it doesn't work to cram like it does in high school. So really just like making sure I got however many hours of sleep I needed. For me it's like 8 or 9, and just coming to class with a fresh mind and trying to work on assignments throughout the day instead of at midnight the night they're due.
Great piece of advice. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Annemarie, if you could go back to a year ago, what advice would you give your high school graduate self?
Okay, so this is, I can definitely speak to this one. I came into engineering, particularly doing the bioengineering route because I wanted to shove myself right into engineering, pick up the steam and rollers and just go with it. One thing I would tell myself is just to relax. And everyone's there for a reason. You're there because you're successful, you have ambition. Something I would tell myself is target things that you know you're not good at. For me, particularly, this was coding. Never coded before in my life, had no idea anything, basic consoling, basic typing, anything. And I shied away from that because I knew it wasn't one of my strengths. If I could look back, and I'm definitely going to apply this for my next however many years it takes me to graduate, I am going to be focusing on my weaknesses to enhance my strengths. Basically, yeah, it's something I can tell myself in high school as well. I had some weaknesses in high school dealing with my mental health, and so really targeting things that you know you're not good at. You can look back and say, hey, you know what, I got better, and that's what matters. Doesn't matter how I was in the beginning, it's kind of how I am now. So that's what I would tell myself. Just practice coding even though you're not good at it. So yeah.
That's wonderful advice. Thank you so much, Annemarie. Caroline, do you have any advice for a young Caroline just a few years ago?
I mean, she did pretty well, but if she could take it easy a little bit more and spend even more time with her friends than she did, that would be awesome. And yeah, definitely targeting your weaknesses and putting yourself out there, I think really pays off. Those are the skills I learned in high school that helped me the most in university, was just being able to go up to random people and make new friends or try new things just because it really is a very valuable skill in university.
And that's fabulous because I can tell you from experience that Caroline is incredibly friendly. And so if any of you want to be her friend, you are good to go. You are set for life. Thank you so much, Caroline. We have Manpreet. What is advice that you would give Manpreet starting out university as you have just finished?
I know it seems so long ago. It was 5 years ago. I think not being afraid to ask for help from friends, faculty members, the university at large. University is really a myriad of highs and lows. And I think I experienced my most elating highs that were amazing, but also very tough periods where there was unexpected circumstances that were beyond my control. And I think in those moments, it's important not to shy away from asking for help because it might make you seem weak or less put together or, a human. I think you can't do it alone, and engineering is academically rigorous. But at the same time, university and your years at university are some of your most formative years. So it's important to invest in those people who might be able to help you and be there for like when things aren't going as you planned. And also just seeing the importance of teamwork early on. I think collaboration is really essential. And when you really put in effort to build a network of friends around you, I think you're setting yourself up for success. And that might not be, academic success and getting good grades all the time, but it's, how are you working on your mental and emotional well-being? That's also a success. So I think redefining that and asking for help.
Wonderful. I love that. Sheliza, what is your advice for entering university, Sheliza?
Well, my advice goes with trying to figure out, because obviously I entered university not really knowing what I exactly liked at the time, then kind of just went with what people said. So I just entered it. But I would say high school is a really good time to figure yourself out, like what you're good at, not only what you're good at, but what you enjoy and how you can combine the two. Because I can say that you can, for example, be good at math, but not necessarily enjoy it. And then you won't necessarily enjoy engineering. And it goes the other way. For example, let's say you don't like math, but then you're good at it and then you enter engineering. It also won't be a really great option. So I think knowing what you're good at, but also figuring out what you like is a great combination. And that's something that I wish I analyzed more throughout high school, because I can say that if you're willing to put in hard work and you really like something, it definitely pays off. I think also one thing that I wish I had done more of is career shadow. So potentially finding some people that were engineers. I didn't really know too much about the profession, but, asking them, hey, what do you do? What a day in your life looks like? And writing those things down and figuring out if that's something you like. Because I think those things are actually a really good testament as to whether you should enter that degree. Because the worst thing that can happen is you finish the degree and then you don't like the job. So I think career shadowing, I know it sounds crazy right out of high school, but literally just talking to someone that's in the profession and say, hey, I just need some advice. So I think that would be definitely something that I would go back and try out.
Brilliant. that is also something that I found really useful going into social work as well. So a lot of this advice is perfect for anyone, even if you're not going into STEM, but especially going to STEM. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Sheliza. And last but not least, again, Stephanie, what would you tell high school graduating Stephanie as you graduate university?
I think I'd start off with something more tangible. So just like Annemarie, like go to a coding camp, just learn some basic code, anything to do with code. Because like I was turned off by coding because the first year course was quite fast paced. However, I figured out later on that I actually like this. This is pretty cool when I learn it at my own pace. So try it out. Go to a coding camp and try it out before you go to university. But I think something less tangible would be don't try and finish as fast as you can. Like everything beforehand, like high school and junior high, it was like really planned out for you. Like you go from one grade to another grade to another grade. Like no, like you can spread out your whole degree. Like take classes that interest you. Take some like add in some things, like go outside of your comfort. This university is a time to really expand on yourself and learn new things and learn all sorts of different topics. So take that Greek and Roman studies class that you like, even if you're in a STEM degree. Like you don't have to just be one-dimensional about things. Go travel abroad, study abroad, take all those conferences. Maybe take only 3 classes a semester if it's a little too much for you as well. It's okay. Like don't like try and compare yourself to other people, and don't try and push yourself as fast or further on as other people. Make sure you go at your own pace. And in that regards, also focus on your mental health. I knew Stephanie going into university was already burnt out from high school. So maybe take a break, like simmer down, like, take a break. That's literally it. Just really be intuitive about it, be proactive about it, go to those counseling sessions, go to the mental health seminars, go to all these resources and really take care of yourself. And a lot of people say go to class, but figure out why you're not going to class. Like I know people always say go to class, but sometimes you realize that, hey, like this isn't for me, or hey, I'm really going through something tough. Try and approach it that way, and then figure out what you can do to make yourself want to go to class. Get some supports, get some friends in there, and really try and push yourself in that regard. Don't just be mad at yourself for not going to class, because that's not going to help anything. And I guess to finish it off, failure is good. Embrace it. Like everyone needs to learn how to fail. I feel like I'm handling like this COVID stuff a little like more calmly than a lot of people, because like I'm like, throw anything at me and like it's okay, because stuff doesn't always work out as you want it to. So just be able to embrace when things don't go your way.
Brilliant. And I think that's another key part of engineering that I've learned, is that a big part of engineering is learning what doesn't work so you can figure out what does. Allie, do you have any advice for going into university, Allie?
Well, I feel like what everyone has said so far has really encompassed, like what I would suggest to any student coming into university. But I guess just to add onto that, it would be to kind of like to what Stephanie said, like really put yourself out there and try like new things, embrace your failures, because I find in the moments in my life where I've failed, I've actually like grown the most and learned the most from those experiences. And as Stephanie was saying, it's big for your resiliency building and like how you can adapt and grow as a person. As I was saying in my intro, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I always found failure scary. But yeah, it really is like a time where you can really grow and become a better, more well-rounded human. And yeah, like Stephanie said, take some electives and stuff, because I think that's what I got the most of university, was taking courses I never had even heard of in high school. And I think that could make you a more well-rounded engineer, and you are building solutions to help the world. So I think you should learn more about the world.
Brilliant. Holly, do you have any advice for university entering Holly?
Oh, I wish 10 years ago, I had heard all of this advice. It would have been very helpful for me. Yeah, I think like the main advice I would give myself is that it's okay to change your mind because, you know, you're in university for yourself and you're there for your own growth and your own education. And at the end of the day, you should be, you know, pursuing the things that make you happy and that you're passionate about and not necessarily worrying about other people's perspective of you along the way. As I mentioned in my intro, I have many older sisters who are all engineers. So I am child 5 of 6. I have 4 older sisters and 1 younger brother. My first 3 sisters are all engineers. And then my next sister did a Bachelor of Health Sciences and then a dental hygiene degree. And now I was in dental school. And these women were all like my role models growing up. And I just wanted so much to be like them. And unlike Sheliza, who said that she didn't know what she wanted to be when she grew up, I basically from the age of 5 to 18 would tell everybody I was going to be an engineer and that I was going to be eventually that got more specific. And then I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. And then I wanted to specialize in biomedical engineering. And then I was accepted into the Schulich School of Engineering and was a recipient of one of the Schulich Leader Scholarships. And I got there and I realized that even though I had been good at, you know, physics and chemistry and math in high school, it actually wasn't my passion and what I wanted to be doing. Just because I love science and I love learning about science and, you know, doing my own involvement in whatever scientific activities, it doesn't mean that I had to pursue a degree in engineering like I said I wanted to. And so it was hard at first to kind of, you know, have that identity crisis at the age of, you know, 18, 19, and have to explain to people why you're dropping out of something you said you wanted to be doing your whole life. But it gave me such an opportunity for growth. And I realized that it was okay to explore and it was okay to try things out and not like them. And eventually I found an area I was super passionate about, which was psychology. And I had an opportunity to get involved in research there at the Addictions Behavior Lab. And since then, I've just, you know, been exploring avenues that excite me because all of these areas of interest and all of my passions are what come together to, you know, make me successful in my job or in my community or whatever it is that I'm pursuing. And I think one other small piece of advice I would give myself is to find a community on campus because it's such a good thing to have support for your mental health, for your sanity, just, you know, having people that you can vent to when you're having a bad day. When I was in engineering, that was ESS for me. I was a first year representative and then I was VP communications. And then when I switched over into psychology, I really found my community at the Writing Symbols Lodge, which is the Indigenous Student Support Center. And I started actually working there as a student, which is how I found my passion for working with Indigenous youth. And that's what I've been working in ever since. So yeah, so it's okay to change your mind and university's for you. So figure out what you want to do, not what others want you to do, and find a community to support you.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, I feel like we could all go in and start our undergrads now and just nail it. We'll just nail it. I think my piece of advice for Hannah going into university would be to stay vulnerable. And I think that we've really seen that today. A lot of us here, every one of you has shared so vulnerably. And I think that that's so important when it comes to entering a new experience, especially a scary experience. It can be useful to put on your hard hat and put on your hard exterior to go into something new and pretend like it's all fine, but really everybody's scared. And so that's why we have this podcast here to show you that everyone experiences challenging times. Everyone has some challenges that they have to overcome academically or socially or emotionally or whatever it may be. But it's all going to work out as we can see here with the six incredible women that we have had a chance to get to know a little bit, and we'll get to know further on as this podcast goes. So I just really want to thank you out there for listening to us or watching us and for joining us. And we look forward to your questions and to share vulnerably with you and you share vulnerably with us about maybe some fears that you might have or excitements or questions, whether they be silly or serious. Or whether you feel like they may be a question that has been asked a million times. If it's been asked a million times, then we might have the answer down pat, hopefully. And I also really want to thank the 6 incredible women that have volunteered their time to be with us today and to share their experiences and to share with us so openly And I know I was personally really moved by the vulnerability that everyone shared, and the experiences and the openness and the willingness to share with myself, Ali, and Holly, and then also with the folks who will listen to this and benefit from this episode. And also thank you to Ali and Holly for being co-hosts of this podcast and this initiative. And we don't have a sign-off phrase yet. Does anyone have anything really quick in their mind? Yay, STEM!
Yeah, yay, STEM! It's Schulich time.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
That's a little Schulich thing that people do on their first kind of orientation week. You'll hear a lot of Schulich time, especially a lot of yelling from a lot of engineers running around campus. So yeah, that happens.
Excellent. Well then, it's Schulich time, and we will see you next on our Cybermentor Ask an Undergrad podcast.
Thank you, everyone.